Thank you so much, Dr. James Komolafe, for always giving us those mental health tips. We always benefit from those tips. But we're moving on now, like we promised earlier, to discuss curbing the brain drain in the medical sector. And some have found it a menace. We've also seen people who say it's an opportunity to also export that which we have, and the government can indeed benefit from that. We'll be discussing all of that. That's after the House of Representatives passed for second reading that bill to ensure that medical workers in Nigeria spend 5 years before being given the full license. How is the Medical Association taking this? Well, we have in the studio a chief consultant neurosurgeon of the National Hospital, Abuja, and head of neurosurgery, but he's here today because he is the Nigerian Medical Association, rather. He's the Nigerian Medical Association Chairman, FCT chapter. That is Dr. Charles Ugwuanyi. Ugwuanyi. I hope I got that right. Dr. Charles Ugwuanyi.
That's right.
Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful there and a tongue twister. But Dr. Charles, it's so good to have you join us. I know several reactions have trailed that information that the House of Reps are deciding at the moment to put a caveat as to traveling in a bid to curb brain drain. But you must admit that any country will find it concerning after the member who was pushing this bill in the House said that we had just about 10,000 doctors in the country. That data is also being debated. So we have so much to discuss with you today. How did you feel when you heard that news from the House of Representatives?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to present the feeling of the Nigerian Medical Association, not just my personal feeling, but for the members of the medical profession in this country as a whole. It is a very saddening moment. It was a very sad news. For such a bill to have sailed first reading and also sailed second reading, which means it is a very serious matter. And for such a matter that will have a direct bearing on very important constitutional issues, it is really, really disturbing to us. First of all, it's in the public domain that we have a 1999 Constitution as amended, which we are running today. And in that Constitution, specifically section 41 and 42, it's very clear there that there is freedom of movement and migration. And there is also freedom from discrimination. So such a law, such an act, such a bill that is being proposed, read in the House, first time, second time, it is a direct affront on a constitution which is guiding our peaceful coexistence in this country. What makes it very worrisome is that it is coming from the hallowed chambers of the House of Representatives, a very serious business. So we believe that we don't all have to be legislators.
Exactly.
We believe we are doing great in our own chosen profession. And we believe that the people that we have elected to represent us should represent us well. To our mind, this is mal-representation. Now, coming to Honorable Ugwuanyi Johnson, who initiated this bill, proposed it, pushed it first and second reading, then we really wonder if he has done due consultation, starting from his Oshodi constituency. Who did he consult to be properly educated on the runnings of the medical system? Yes, because an average doctor, who knows how the system works. First of all, graduating medical students to make them become doctors is a whole lot of process.
Exactly.
You will agree with me that in the country today, there's a mismatch. There are some doctors that are graduating from federal government institutions where it is claimed that their training is free.
Subsidized.
Or subsidized.
That's the word, they are subsidized.
There are doctors who are graduating from local universities here, but they are private universities.
Exactly.
And their parents are paying through their nose. I don't want to mention them. You know them. There are private universities in Nigeria that are offering graduating sound medical doctors. But their parents have paid. There are doctors who have trained outside this country, Europe, America, Asia, and so on and so forth, even some African countries. Their parents have also paid for them. So which category of doctors is Honorable Johnson referring to be bonded by this, assuming we even waive the affront on the Constitution? So which category of doctor is he talking about? Then secondly, you want to deny the doctor who is fully qualified, practicing license, full practicing license, full registration and practicing license, by modifying the MDCN Act, which has been operational since 2004. So, which category of doctors are you talking about? Is it the doctor who is doing housemanship, or is post-housemanship youth service, or is it the doctor that is finished youth service is going to start residency? So when you deny them this full practicing license, full registration and practicing license, so how do they now progress in their career? Is it not against the law of the Federal Republic that you are not supposed to get any employment if you do not have any certification?
Exactly.
Even as a houseman in housemanship, the MDCN will give you provisional practicing license pending successful completion of the 1-year mandatory internship training. And after that 1 year, and you do not have any issues, you are supposed to be given a full practicing license, full registration and practicing license.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you deny young doctors their rights of getting full practicing license, how then do they proceed to do youth service?
Yeah, Dr. Ugwuanyi, everything you've said is very logical. Let's use the word logical, because of course there should be processes which they should have followed, consultations which should have been made. And I think what NMA is actually calling it modern day slavery. So all of this, all you've said is in context and makes sense. But the question I'd like to ask beyond this is, isn't NMA themselves as an association bothered about the number of doctors leaving Nigeria? If we're not sure of the statistics yet, we're saying we had 30,000 doctors, now we have 10,000 remaining, and we'll gradually go and look at the issues in the medical sector, but let's start with this. Isn't the association itself worried about the number of doctors that are leaving, despite the fact that, yes, everybody has a right to migration and freedom of movement, everybody has that right, despite the fact that, yes, people pay their fees in the private sector, obviously a lot more than the subsidized one in the federal government universities. But in truth, we have doctors, the common language is japaring. We have doctors japaring. Another good instance is the UK itself, as at yesterday, this morning, when we read the papers, are saying, look, Nigeria and 53 other countries, they're saying, no, look, you know what, let's put a pause on this for now. So what's your take on that?
Well, let me tell you what NMA is bothered about. NMA is bothered more about the push factors. The push factors.
What's that?
You know, there's a popular theory called Ravenstein's theory of migration. There are push factors pushing people out of a particular geographical location. And there are pull factors pulling them to where they desire to go. So NMA is bothered about the push factors. And the push factors is not affecting only doctors. Now, talking about the medical profession, we have always been at the forefront of advising the government to improve the condition of service here locally. First of all, security. The most important of all is security. Security of life and security of your health. These are the two most important things. Security of life. We are being murdered in our consulting rooms. You must have read in the news, a particular doctor in Delta State was murdered in cold blood in his room about 4 or 5 months ago. As we speak, the IG of police, despite our pleas, have not been able to identify, even arrest one person that is the culprit. Doctors are being kidnapped.
But it's not
alongside any other person.
It happens to every other Nigerian.
Yes. So, that's the issue of security. And in terms of health, look at the health systems. Which one is working? Primary is a failure.
Yes, I agree with you.
Secondary, monumental failure. Tertiary is failing. Let's start from primary. What is the role of primary health care?
Primary health centers, they don't...
It's supposed to cater for about up to 70% of the population. But from data released by National Primary Healthcare Development Agency late last year, less than 20% of them are working. These are the hospitals that are closer to the populace.
Yeah.
They take care of maternal and child health. The greatest killer till tomorrow is problem related to childbirth. Malnutrition in children, they take care of that. They take care of sanitation, immunization, prevention of disease. Until that one person in the village is safe from communicable diseases, none of us is safe because of what? Migration.
Okay.
Secondary health system is also nowhere to be found. The general hospitals. Go to our states, you wonder what the state governments are doing. Commissioners of health in those states are doing. Come to the federal institutions. Federal institutions, what are we talking about? Go to our teaching hospitals. Functionality of equipment. And that is why the people who are trying to make this law, they don't even have confidence in our system. I thought, and we thought in the medical profession, that they should start from, first of all, making a legislation against medical tourism.
Yes.
Let us stay here. Because I believe if we all stay here, we will find the problem to our solution. You have never heard that the Prime Minister of UK has gone to the US to have medical treatment. We have never heard that any of the top government functionary in the US has gone elsewhere to have treatment. Because they believe in their system.
Exactly.
If we don't work on our system, if we don't believe in our system, this is just, just like a whitewash we're doing.
Dr. Ugwuanyi, you didn't quite respond to that aspect where Ifunanya asked, and because we had seen the engagement
in terms of the number of people living, I'm coming to address that.
Right.
As at April 2022, data from Nigerian the Medical and Dental Council, because after every year, people must register to get a renewal of their practicing license.
Right.
So after conducting that exercise in April last year, all right, they will soon do another one in April. There were about 110,000 doctors in the medical registry in Nigeria. But those who renewed their practicing license, there were about half of that, 50%, 55,000.
Okay.
However, you are aware that doctors are leaving every day. Therefore, if you reconduct that data today, I cannot guarantee that there are up to 40,000 doctors. To look after 220 million people, WHO has recommended 1 doctor to 500 people. As at then, we were operating at, with 55,000, we're operating at 1 doctor to 7,000 people. So it is grossly inadequate. And these people, all these doctors, you will find very few of them in the primary health centers. Nobody wants to go there. Security is not there, and the condition of service is not attractive. So they are mostly concentrated the big cities, Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the condition of service that will make this your beautiful brides. I believe they believe doctors are beautiful brides. They want to keep them.
Nigerian doctors especially.
Yes, all over. We're the best. That's why they look for us everywhere. Those of us who trained abroad and came back here to work, it is simply because at the time we did that, we had hopes in this country. If times have changed, the decision might be different. We didn't come back because we're bonded by anybody, because we believe in this system. And we still do. Because we want the system to be sorted out so that it can work. But not the way they are going about it.
Yeah,
you cannot infringe on people's rights.
That UK is actually saying that, you know,
now, let me quickly respond to that.
Okay, great.
That thing has always been there.
Okay.
What they're specifically talking about is agencies that recruit doctors and nurses. They're asking them to exercise restraint. There are agencies all over the place. You click on internet, we will help you to get a job in UK. Okay. Just apply. And then they pack people and then go and be scouting for jobs all over. But as an individual, and you have done your licensing exams as a nurse, as a doctor, in the UK, you don't just walk in. For you to be eligible for employment in the UK, you would have done English language test, you would have done PLAB 1, PLAB 2, and then you go for GMC credentialing, 4 stages. When you have gone through all this, UK, they are very hungry for any doctor who has been through this process because, you know what, you're good. All right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, it doesn't change anything. Any doctor who wishes to emigrate will follow these processes. If you have done it on your own, not relying on an agency to do it, you sell like a hot cake. They are living every day. As a matter of fact, the mass exodus of doctors, brain drain out of this country, is causing fatigue, stress, burnout for the few that are remaining. Because a unit that usually has like 10 doctors will now cope with 4.
Less doctors, yeah.
And what is going to happen is that when the burnout is really, really serious, we are going to cut down the number of work we can do. I mean, you have a life to live.
That will definitely affect people like me who would look for good medical services. I'm happy that, you know, we talked about some of the issues that we have in the health sector when you said the primary healthcare centers are barely existing, just dilapidated buildings. With all due respect, won't go into a primary health center even for something as minute as a pain reliever. I won't trust the kind of drugs they're giving me, you understand? But when it come up to, we also see that we find the doctors somehow, not generalizing everybody, but just speaking as, you know, complacent too in part of the rot that the health sector is having. You find that doctors who work in the private sector are doing very well, maybe because they own those hospitals themselves. But those same doctors who work in the government hospitals are lackadaisical about the art, you know, the way or the manners that they treat their patients. Isn't that worrisome, especially when, what's that oath you take? There's an oath of, there's an oath.
Hippocratic oath.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
A hood does not make a monk.
Yeah.
A building does not make a hospital. A doctor is completely useless in modern day practice of medicine without biomedical engineering. Let's say, for instance, you see a patient that has suffered a stroke or traumatic brain injury. Is rushed to Kubwa General Hospital because it's closer to the express. The best, Ben Carson is there. The best doctor is there, waiting. But there is no CT scan to tell you the injury is suffered in the brain. You're completely useless. The practice of modern medicine is biomedically engineered.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is one thing that the Nigerian doctors are crying every day. Work environment, equipment to work with is not there. Why would a hospital like Kubwa General Hospital, and indeed all the 14 hospitals under the FCT administration, not have one CT scan at least? Yes, is it that the funds are not there? So the doctors are there, but they are frustrated because they know what to do, but you cannot catch a lion with bare hands.
That's true.
It's as simple as that. So that is about, now when you talk about a working health system, there are 6 pillars of a working health system. All these hospitals that we're running to in Europe, America, is because those pillars are in place. And I'll name them for you, starting from leadership and administration. There has to be, the process of selecting leadership in any hospital has to be on merit. Politics shouldn't come in here. The best has to be given the job. And that best must be selected through a rigorous process to prove that you have what it takes. Administrative capacity based on what you have done in the past. If you have not even headed a unit before, how can you come and head a big hospital? That experience is there. Of course, everybody is qualified. Then you must have the knowledge of what to do. You must have an understanding of the workings of hospital.
Exactly.
So the selection of the leadership is important. Number 2, it is that leadership that will do the needful. 1, human resource capital development and management. You know the areas to train people so that you get the job delivered. Okay. And you know how to train them and also keep them. Because if you train them, you don't look after them,
they leave.
You start crying. On one side, the minister will say, "Whoa, we're a doctor factory, we manufacture doctors, we export them." On the other hand, they are going to the National Assembly to stop. So what are you doing? Anyway, let me leave it at that. Human resource development and sustenance. Number 3, give them equipment to work now. Infrastructure. Equipment to work. Number 4, drugs, consumables, vaccination. Information, IT, data management. So for a health system that works anywhere in the whole world is based on these 6 pillars. Now, where are we in this country? Leadership crisis. Some hospitals can't even transit because of multiple interests. That interest is not about the patient. It's about who becomes the chief executive of the hospital. What do you have to offer? What you have to offer depends on what you have done before. Show us what you have done before. This post is not for greenhorns. Because you get in there, they mess up the system. All right?
Yeah.
Where is the equipment?
Exactly.
But that has always been a major problem.
Exactly.
Sorry, that equipment
So
issue.
these systems are not in place.
Exactly.
They are completely dysfunctional, distorted. But we, Nigerian Medical Association, we know what to do. We know how to fix the system. But we don't have any executive functions. We can only observe and advise and complain.
In my next question, I mean, you have just mentioned what the push factor is, and we have seen that this proposed compulsory 5-year service for medical workers is getting to the second bill. What is the enemy doing to ensure?
Well, the point there is that you can see the reaction is generated. Even the medical students are complaining.
But is that intentional engagement with the House of Rep?
No, we're coming.
Right.
When it first came, the first reading, we thought, reasoning will prevail at the time. But the fact that it has come to this level is already even receiving opposition from the House where it was read, and the Senate is also not looking at it differently. But we're taking it very seriously because we know in the process of making law, after the second reading, then there is supposed to be public hearing. So we will go to the public hearing and put all these facts in place. Because we need to prove to them. I will remind them if they don't know, or if they pretend not to know, that the premise upon which they want to push this bill is not realistic at all. It's not realistic because you can't just single out doctors, say, don't move. Is it only doctors that are trained in public institutions? So you're discriminating against me because I'm a doctor.
Yes.
Whereas the pharmacists can leave, the nurses, if one doctor leaves, 20 nurses have left.
Yes.
Is it not the same public institution they were trained? Pharmacists are leaving. Engineers are leaving. IT specialists are leaving. In fact, everybody is leaving. Why don't you go and look for the reasons why they are leaving and deal with it? Those are the push factors. Because those push factors, the opposite of the push factors are the pull factors. They are going to where they appreciate your work.
Yes.
If I tell you the salary of a doctor, you will cry. If I tell you the number of hours, if I tell you the number of hours that a doctor puts in at work, you want to faint. Virtually, we don't have any lives for our families. Our wives are leaving us because they can't take it anymore. We struggle to pay school fees for our children from the salaries we earn.
And
then you get a job where all those are taken care of. You don't need to pray. All those prayers are already answered. Because we stay here and pray, oh God, please give me money to pay school for my children. When you go over there, you don't need to pray any longer because those prayers have been answered.
But the question I'll ask you, Dr. Ugwuanyi, and then with all due respect, it's not only the doctors that are going through this. It's most Nigerians. As a public servant is also crying. I mean, my salary can't take me to the end of the month. It can't even take me to the end of the week. So it's a Nigerian thing. And yes, your profession is very important. It's life-saving, life-giving. So we should value that more. There's a saying that says, if you keep doing the same thing and getting the same result, then why don't you change tactics? Now, what the doctors have always done, whenever they're clamoring for better pay or better everything, is a strike. And unfortunately, it hasn't really been successful. The medical health, the health sector hasn't changed. It hasn't improved. It should be #1 priority in the country, but it's not, like all the things you're pointing out. So what can NMA, as an association, do differently to get the things you deserve? We shouldn't, like you said, we shouldn't be praying for certain things that we should be taking for granted.
NMA, I said before, we do not have any executive powers.
Yeah, but why?
We do not control any votes. We can only advise the government. And if the government does not listen, what do you do?
There's a commissioner of health in every state. There's a minister of health. So what's the synergy between those people and your needs as medical doctors?
The minister of health, minister of health, they're all political appointees. They do what their masters want them to do. They can only advise their masters who appointed them. This is what I think should be done. Wait, there are no funds. Or it's not a priority right now. So, from an NMA point of view, we are drifting from reactive approach to a proactive approach. You see us engaging with the government. We have been engaging the Minister of Labor, Productivity, Minister of Health, Salaries and Wages. Listen, this commerce, review it. This medical salary is nothing, review it. And we also know that other professions are also asking the federal government, review salaries to keep people in their sanity to do this work. Has it happened? So what else are we going to do? Well, have you heard that the doctors went on strike because of salary? No. They only go on strike when you don't even pay them at all. It gets that bad. Some states are owing household workers salaries for up to 18 months. Abia State. During our last NEC meeting, it was so pathetic, the stories we get from those places. How can you be owing doctors for 18 months? Nurses 18 months. And you tell them not to leave? Because you think you have the capacity to run to the house, sponsor a bill to keep them here. However, that is an infringement on fundamental human rights. Freedom of... Listen, migration is as old as man. Israelites migrated from Israel to Egypt when he suited them, and they migrated out when he suited them. There's no restriction. International laws. Nobody can infringe on your rights.
Exactly.
Right of freedom of movement. You have the labor laws too. You have the right to get a job anywhere in the whole world, so long as you have a scale to market.
That's true.
There's no restriction on that.
Dr. Ugwuanyi, like she said, we are getting this decay in other sectors of the economy. All sectors in Nigerian economy, they are screaming out. And you know, when we wake up to hear that recently the National Association of Resident Doctors are asking for a salary review, in fact, before May 29th. And we know that that's something, if they can hold us by our jugular if we don't
Let me tell you, that's why review is called COMMES.
Yes.
COMMES, the last time it was reviewed, that's Consolidated Medical Salary Scale,
Yeah.
right? Which previous administrations have put in place. And they promised that it should be reviewed every 5 years. The last time it was reviewed was 2009. It was reviewed, it's supposed to be reviewed 2014. It wasn't done. 2019, it wasn't done. And now we're almost getting to 2024. It hasn't been done. So what you're earning in 2009 is what you're earning today. And look at inflationary trend.
Of course.
Look at the dollar exchange rate that is changing like the speed of light. What can you do? If you are earning 2,000 equivalent of USD in 2009, probably earning 500 now. What can you do with it? You can't do nothing. Now you get a job with the skills you have, number of years you trained. You get a job in Saudi Arabia, they're paying you 10,000 for a start, dollars for a start. And somebody is telling you not to go. Come on. Okay. Pay my children's school fees. You won't be able to do that. Those people paying you that amount, your children's school fees is given.
Taken care of. Yeah.
It's given. Your basic needs, house is given. Now, what they should do is that you want to keep your beautiful bride because you think you spent money to get her. Treat her well. Say, okay, every doctor graduating in Nigeria, okay, we want you to work for our system. Okay, what to do for you? See, a house is waiting. You have your house. They're not asking for too much. See a house waiting for you. Put it on mortgage. Then make sure they even have job. Do you know that as I speak to you, there are doctors 5 years post NYSC, they don't have a job? Yes, I have the data. In my capacity as the chairman, they are looking for a job. They are calling me every day to get a job.
But in a sector that we're already screaming is overwhelmed, why are we...
Let me tell you why they don't have a job.
Right.
The process of employment in Nigeria is very cumbersome in public service. First of all, there's an advertisement. Then they have to wait for some time for people to apply. Another application, shortlisting. After shortlisting, interview is conducted. After conducting interview, then appointments are given, and you're given some time to resume. This process involves so many ministries, departments, and agencies. Salaries and wages must be there. Federal Character Commission must be there. Ministry this, ministry that, labor this, labor. And all of them must act in conformity. This process takes not less than 1 year. Now, what we're even saying, since these doctors in public service are leaving, causing a stress in the system, burnout, why don't you empower the chief executives of those hospitals to replace one for one?
Okay.
Sam, it hasn't worked. Because no chief executive has the powers
to employ
appoint
directly.
You, except you want to appoint cleaners. But at that level, they can't.
Even those things that the association should be fighting for.
We have now. Like, we don't have executive powers. Right. We understand the problem inside out. We know the problem backwards, like the back of our hands.
Now there's a new
we know the
solutions.
solutions. And we have been advising the relevant authorities. When you listen to my national president, he's almost crying when he's addressing this matter. So passionate about getting a system that works. We don't all want to leave. Some of us have licenses to work in UK, work in US, work in Europe. But I tell you, there's no place like home.
True.
But you cannot advise the younger ones not to go. Because you've had the experience doesn't mean that they shouldn't have their own experience. Let them go and have it.
Exactly. Doc, there's a new
when you have the experience, nobody will tell you that there's no place like home. But trying to force them, no. Right. It's suffocating.
I can understand. I can hear passion in your tone. However, there's a new administration that will come on board, say, in 47 days. About 47 days. What are you going to do differently so that this, you know the inside and out of the challenges you face? How are you going to address them better? If you have, in retrospect, how you would push your agenda more, what would it be?
Well, we will always function within the confines of our constitution.
I mean, I won't ask you to function outside, but has that worked?
Yes, we will continue to advise. And then strike is always the last option when every other thing has failed. Like you said, when you go on strike in the health industry, who pays the price? Poor Nigerians.
Patients, exactly.
That's why we have been stretched to an elastic limit. So I don't want to say we are losing faith in government, because if you lose faith in government, what else will you do now?
Renewed hope now.
That's my line, Joy. I'm going to start with what are you going to do now on this program. That's my line.
So the press, I'm putting it back to you. You have a whole lot of work to do.
And that's what we're doing.
By narrating our own narrative.
That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Before we let you go, another very important thing to talk about in relation to doctors and then going out is the issue of medical. It's the issue of what do you call it? Medical tourism. You understand? Medical tourism.
Exactly. We've seen that some people are threatening. I don't know if to call it a threat, but they want to also sponsor a bill to ensure that public office holders do not leave for medical tourism. They must have to.
Yes, and I expect when you have that public hearing, you know, that you should be able to balance it up and say, what do you call it? If you're saying doctors should not go, then you should be able to put, what do you call it?
A caveat so
that there's no medical tourism.
For
and
political
actors.
In fact, that will be, I alluded to it earlier in this discussion. Is a very wonderful bill that should be pushed. And I think we should be thinking about that seriously. Because, let me tell you, the amount of money we lose, capital flight out of this country on medical tourism annually is getting to $2 billion.
But we still cannot also infringe on their right to move.
And they want to infringe on your right to move. so let us adopt a holistic approach to deal with the problem. You know, not whitewash approach. You know, it means someone has a very poor understanding of the issues.
Okay. Okay, then I think basically that's about it. But what would be your parting word to, because you said the media should get involved. So now we're giving you, Dr. Charles Ugwuanyi, the opportunity to talk to the people that need to listen to this message.
Well, the people who have executive powers in this country should listen to the professionals. And NMA is a body representing the professionals that provide healthcare services in this country. When you get to engineering matters, listen to the professionals there. Engage people on merit, not on political considerations. And when they talk, listen to them. Let them make up their mind that they want our system to work. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. So Joy, wrap it up.
Dr. Charles Ugwuanyi, NMA Chairman, FCT Chapter, Chief Consultant, Neurosurgeon, National Hospital, Abuja, and Head of Neurosurgery. It was wonderful having you come talk so passionately about the challenges you face in the health sector in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being part of the program.
For being part of ASO Morning.
Thank you.
And on that note, we wrap up this segment of the interview. But up next is the Investment Plus. You're going to learn what to do with your money and how to invest it, especially when we don't get enough paid by the government. So I think you need to watch this segment. And then after that, we'll continue the next interview. So just stay with us.